Fellow female activists, it is an extra today. Cathy here, your wellness coach and fellow female activist, and we are going to discuss the SAVE Act. And feel free to share this and any other material you have on the SAVE Act to others. This is so important. So these extras are for important updates, let's say, right? And just more in-depth information on how we can get through what is a very scary time here in the US. So the SAVE Act. Okay, so this is scary as all get out. And several people commented on my short with regards to the SAVE Act. And then other people have commented when I've sent out just text and emails, so forth and so on. So it's imperative that people understand how important it is that this freaking horrible voter suppression legislation not go anywhere. So the SAVE Act, okay, basically it is a solution to a problem that does not exist. Voter suppression is all it is. That's pretty much all the SAVE Act is. And so we really want to emphasize to others why this must not become legislation. So first off, I had someone who, brought up an argument, and they were talking about, oh, well, I have to show my ID to buy liquor, or I get to, show up with proper identification when I'm getting a driver's license, when I'm, how you say it, like, you're going to get tested, let's say, right, for the driver's license, and or you need to obviously show identification. Well, here's the difference between those two, okay? I guess you could say, let me put it this way. Your right to vote, if you were born here, okay, and or if you're a naturalized citizen, it is your legal right, like your civil duty to vote. There should be no impediments as to how you get to vote. In fact, there should be millions of ways to vote. Whereas a driver's license, the ability to purchase alcohol in all the 50 states, that's a privilege. Okay, let me repeat that. There's a difference between a legal right, okay, what you're born with, an inalienable right, right, which is definitely you get to vote, no obstacles in your way, versus a privilege. Driving, whether people want to think of it this way or not, it is a privilege. Okay, I want to make that distinction. So here's another example. It was, and I believe it still is. It's voluntary right now for females, but when a male turns age 18, okay, they are expected by law to register with the selective services. Now, of course, now there's probably going to be a draft because no one wants to go into the military now, but you get what I'm saying. So that is like a federal law, right? So they must do that. Okay, as a citizen, then you get to, if you're a male, register with selective services. That's not optional. On the other side, okay, what is a privilege? Well, let's say, breaking it down to another civil service. Oh, here's a good one. And I want to reiterate this, okay? The SAVE Act is what this video is about, but I want you to understand what some people are trying to use as an excuse that this is an okay bill. It is not okay. It is voter suppression in every way, shape, or form. There are differences between what a legal right is as a citizen and versus a privilege, okay? Let's say, right, when you're getting into like a prestigious, quote unquote, prestigious university or law school is even better. Anytime you're trying to get into any type of higher education, right, you have to be able to pass those tests, okay? If you want to become a lawyer, you have to take, I forget what it's called, but you have to take a test. Then if you want to go into medical school, you have to take a test. that is a privilege to then go to those higher educational institutions. Okay. Your right to education is a right. Like that is a legal right as a citizen. If you are born here, okay, and if you are, and heck, obviously everyone has the right to education. So even those who are not what you would call legally here, they still get to participate in the school system up until, right, K-12. They go through K-12, and then unfortunately, right, they wouldn't necessarily be able to go continually. So you get what I'm saying. There is a difference between, again, a legal right as a citizen versus a privilege, right? So that's the big distinction, okay? This SAVE Act is going against our legal right to vote. Okay. So with that settled, and I know not everything I said is completely like in the best grammar or the best examples, but again, understand that there's a difference between having a legal right to some type of action, right? Or some type of, permission versus the permission from a privilege. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, why I should say, the SAVE Act sucks. So it is straight voter suppression, all right? So we want to understand, okay, there is already a plethora, all right, of like just all types of legislation that prohibits any type of fraudulent registering to vote if you are not a citizen and if you're trying to vote as a non-citizen. Again, no one who wants to be here, and again, probably a lot of people don't want to be here now, but any non-citizen who's here is looking to become a permanent resident and or a citizen. They cannot do that if in fact they break the law. So, for instance, no one who is a non-citizen is going to try to register to vote. Why? Because it's illegal. They will then be denied the ability to apply for citizenship. So no, non-citizens are not voting in the droves, nor are they trying to register, okay? And in the instances where it has happened, it's been a mistake on the end of the, whatever municipality made the error, okay? It wasn't on the on the non-citizen in most cases. So that, again, this SAVE Act, it's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. So that said, another reason why this SAVE Act sucks is that it is going to affect more than 60 million women automatically. Now, you will say, oh, well, the 19th Amendment gives women the right to vote. No, it only gave white women the right to vote. Okay, so let's get that straight. It wasn't until the 1964 Civil Rights Act did Black women get to vote. Now, let's be very clear, okay? Either way, there's a 19th Amendment and it gives women the right to vote. All right, let's put that there. So that means all women, okay, because it's been over time that all the other women get to vote. So here's what the SAVE Act is trying to actually do to 60 plus women. Most women, if they are married, okay, not all women who get married, but when women get married, unfortunately, they decide to change their name, to change their last name. That's a remnants of patriarchy that still exists, okay? So they change their name. Well, their birth certificate still has their maiden name, okay? So as we go along here, what the SAVE Act is doing, it is now going to stop those 60 million women who decided to change their name, their last name, from voting. How? Because how many of those women, okay, now I hope they have their birth certificates, but they probably, like most people, may have just let it stay with their parents, or maybe it's, somewhere where they just can't remember where it's at. One way or another, they don't have access to their birth certificate. This SAVE Act is requiring, if it were to become law, that everyone who wants to register for the first time or re-register, let's say if you move, right, you have to re-register with a new address. If that happens, you can only use a passport, which many people don't have because, again, it's expensive. And then two, the only other, they're asking you to either have your passport and or your birth certificate with two other identifications that are not including your driver's license. So that smells of voter suppression to me. So what would happen is someone, okay, example, Sue gets married and she, for whatever reason, maybe never voted. Or maybe she has voted before and now she gets to re-register, okay, because her and her spouse moved somewhere, right? So she is going to go to her, instead of making it really easy, right? The SAVE Act now means you have to go in person to re-register or to register at all. So this person, Sue, goes to get registered at her county registrar's office, the new one. And she is told point blank, your driver's license doesn't count. Nothing counts that you have with it. You need to have either your passport or a birth certificate, which, by the way, doesn't have her current name anymore, and two other forms of identification. She has just been denied, disenfranchised from her right to vote. So now, if she has the privilege of having enough funds, she will now have to go back to wherever she was born. Okay, let's say she moved out of state even. So she has to, on her own time, if she even has it, on her own time, which means taking time away from family, her work, etc., she has to go fly back to wherever state she was born. Then she has to pay for them to create a new birth certificate, certified birth certificate, that now has her new name. I ask you, in earnest, what person is going to go through all that crap? Especially if they are not privileged enough to have the funds to do so. All of us are leading our lives, and no one, and I mean no one, is going to take the time to do all of that. Now, again, 60 million women will be disenfranchised instantly if this were to become law. So the SAVE Act, it sucks completely. It is, again, useless. We already have a ton of state laws that exist to stop voter fraud, which is not even a big issue. No one cared about voter fraud until after the 2020 election. And interesting enough, this SAVE Act would also get rid of mail-in voting, which, by the way, in my state, over 80% of people use, to include the MAGA party. 80% of people use mail-in voting. So you tell me, why does this have to become law? It doesn't. It is straight voter suppression. So share this or share any of the articles that you found about the SAVE Act because they're all the same. They're telling you, don't let this happen because it is going to devastate those of us who barely got the right to vote and then disenfranchise so many others. Okay, so this is not about keeping fraudulent voters from voting because that doesn't happen, if ever. This is simply voter suppression, and we must not let it pass. Share this if you wish, but more importantly, tell people just call their representatives, call their Congress members, call the senators, everyone, and tell them this must not pass. Okay? With that, take care, take charge, God bless.